the young adult housing team lead here at the Damien Center.
Excellent. Thank you. So you might have noticed we're finally without masks. We're so excited that we are vaccinated for the COVID virus, and our whole team is. We're at 90% or greater of the staff being vaccinated. In fact, we have these great shirts that people can wear around. I'll show it to you. It says, vaccines save lives. And on the back, it says, Damien Center has reached herd immunity. So we're very excited and proud of the fact that we have herd immunity here. More than 90% of staff, and we're headed towards 100%, are vaccinated. And we're going to be healthy and safe for our clients. We're helping our clients sign up for vaccinations and get enrolled and set up as they become eligible. So it's very exciting for the whole community. Hopefully we can get back to some sense of normalcy in the future. Now, this isn't the only these shirts are just for the staff, but we do have a shirt right now that you and anyone can actually purchase. It's very cool. It's with the shopindy.com, and they do kind of a specialty shirt that recognizes certain nonprofits, and it's for a good cause. So it's a fundraiser. If you purchase this shirt, we actually get proceeds from it, and we're going to put the link in the comment box so you can follow that link to purchase the shirt if you want to. It's great. It's got various title words around the center that really signify what our beliefs are around diversity and inclusion and dignity and all those kinds of things. So it's a really great shirt, and maybe I'll wear mine at the next month's.
You should.
So, yeah,
and it has the hand on it.
I know. Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice. Well, today we're here to talk a little bit about youth and young adults and what Damien Center is doing around it. Now, recently, you might remember that we did this survey in collaboration with several different organizations in town focused on LGBTQ issues. How did COVID impact the LGBTQ community separately or differently than the heterosexual community? So we did quite a number of surveys, well over 300 in the community, and asked the same questions and sort of got some clear ideas of what that looked like. And by the way, everybody, if you want to see that report, it's available on the Damien website. So if you go to damien.org/survey, I think SURVEY, but you can also just search on the Damien website to find it. It's really interesting. But one of the things we found was that the LGBT community was significantly more impacted in 4 key areas. That was like mental health, physical health, and social connectedness, and financial stability. And so versus heterosexual counterparts, the LGBT community was significantly more impacted. In some areas, just outrageously more. But then when we looked at that data, even within that, young people, oftentimes 18 to 24, were even more significantly impacted. So I just brought a couple of stats and see if you're surprised by any of these. So decline in mental health. Well, 64% of the LGBTQ population reported a significant decline in mental health during the COVID epidemic. And keep in mind, again, that the heterosexual community was significantly less than that, but there was still a big decline there. But amongst young adults, it was about 90% had a significant decline in their mental health. Does that surprise you?
Yes and no. Being social at that age is so important, and creating connections with your peers, and everything being closed and not being able to be together, I could see how people could go into depression.
Yeah. And you're right, because social connectedness, I think, is very connected to mental health. And social connectedness was one of the other ones. And we did find that while 75% of adults with LGBTQ populations felt that their social connectedness deteriorated, 84% of youth. And in this area, for heterosexuals, it was significantly less. That somehow the connections that heterosexuals were able to maintain during the pandemic were significantly higher than we saw in the LGBTQ community. And again, with youth, we saw kind of similar things around both physical health and economic stability. Again, with it's hard to believe, but in this case, 20% of LGBTQ youth lost their jobs. And in the heterosexual community, that's in single digits.
Yeah.
So that is just significantly higher. And more than and about half had significant financial instability as a result of the pandemic. So it is a really interesting report. I would encourage people to go check it out. But as just listening to some of these disparities are some of the reasons why we started to implement programming that targets youth, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about this new program, because you've been heading up this brand new initiative for the Damien Center. How long have we been doing it, and what is it about?
So the catalyst really was the youth housing grant that we got through HUD. And so several other organizations in the city were awarded some of this money too. And that's kind of started the ball rolling on our youth services. And we're serving 18 to 24-year-olds who've experienced homelessness, and we're helping them with rent and utilities for 2 years. Ideally, by the end of that time, they'll be self-sufficient and achieved or working on their self-determined goals.
That's great. So you said 18 to 24. Why not younger than 18?
Well, our grant, for one thing, says that we can serve that, but it's kind of harder to serve people under 18 because of parental consent.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And then, so it's up to 2 years they can get rental utility assistance. What else do we do to engage youth, and what else are we providing during that time period to help them reach that self-sufficiency you talked about?
That's a good question, Alan. So we're trying to hit all the areas, social connection. So we're creating spaces for them to create community with each other. And to meet older people, we're trying to develop some mentoring programs, just hooking them up with older people, because not a lot of them have family members in their lives that they look up to or that support them. So creating that connection is one way. We're helping young people get enrolled in school.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah, if that's what they want to do. We're working really hard with the city and some other organizations for job readiness. So we're about to start teaching the Job Ready Indy classes here.
Oh, that's great.
The city developed. Nutrition assistance. We provide gift cards for groceries, bus passes, and really just meeting them where they are and helping them with what they want to be helped with.
So what have you found the response to be so far?
Better than I expected, actually. I was worried that the young people wouldn't engage a lot, but they're really calling often. They want to participate, and they want to meet each other, and they want to meet with us.
Oh, that's great. That is exciting. What are some of the kind of issues that they have faced maybe in their life or in their past to, end up in the situation that they're in when we engage with them? Yeah.
So statistically, LGBTQ youth become homeless. The biggest reason is because of family rejection. So creating those connections, especially with older people, healthy, with boundaries, that's something that I see that they need a lot. So we are trying to, now that people are starting to get vaccinated, trying to make in-person events that are fun, that they can meet each other, that they can meet people in the community, and just start to build from there.
That's great.
And I think that is and especially with COVID, not having family and not being able to be in the typical spaces that our community meets in, that's really what I've seen the most of.
And then we created a very special role, a peer role in this. So tell us about that. Why did we create that role, and what is the function of that person?
Right. So, this person her name's Cosmo. And she's our peer support specialist. And the whole along this whole ride, we've been engaging with young people because young people are the experts on themselves. And so it was important for us to hire a young person who has lived experience that can help us guide our programming, but also, young people will feel more comfortable really being themselves with. And so it's been great and a great opportunity for Cosmo to use all of her skills.
That is awesome. And then, so Cosmo can kind of connect one-on-one with people and provide support when they maybe they don't feel as comfortable coming to the case manager or talking about just sort of social things and any kind of support service. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Cosmo keeps it real with them.
Good. That's great. I love that.
I feel like I can seem kind of strict and if I'm like that, but it seems totally natural coming from her. So
it's sort of like different roles so that you can develop different types of relationships and the young people can feel more comfortable, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like it's interesting that we pick this age range and that HUD, federal government picked this age range. And it's because there's a lot of research about, like the transition to adulthood, people are still growing and learning, their brains are still developing, and it's a time when people are most vulnerable. And if we can provide the support to them at that time when they need it the most, they're far more likely to be successful later in life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, on the other side of that, people are growing and learning and vulnerable, but if we can get them to a place where they're feeling safe, it's also the most creative and open time of your life. So you can really start to dream and make plans and create. And that's really what I like to focus on once we get somebody stable.
I love that. That is great. This is a program where people can come to dream as well as get sort of stable and have a real life too. Real life and an opportunity to dream, right?
Yeah,
I like that. What do you think are, maybe if you were to say the 2 or 3 key things that young people need, if people were watching this and they said, like, I wonder what I could donate to this program, I wonder what I could provide. Are there things that people could either donate to help these young people or come in and volunteer and do something with? What are those kinds of things that you would need for the program?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the young people we've taken on don't have anything, and it's their first apartment. So anything that you would just not even think about in your house, like silverware or a shower curtain liner, they don't have anything like that. So we always take donations for things like that. And you can donate through our website.
Yes.
So FYI, but they also, they need job opportunities, and they need even volunteer opportunities and just older people to help them kind of get their feet on the ground. And so that's another thing that I've been talking a lot with our volunteer coordinator about, and how we can create mentorships.
Great.
Those are tangible things that we could actually do right now.
That's excellent. You kind of mentioned this already. So by the way, if you want to get involved, you can sign up to volunteer at our site, damien.org, or to donate and restrict it to the youth program at damien.org too.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And these home kits where people, kind of like a welcome home kits, we call them, right? That has everything from laundry detergent to cleaning items and all the kinds of things that you need when you move into a home. And people don't have them because they're coming to us with nothing. They have nothing, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. And they often don't have family members that, who you would typically expect to help with your first apartment with. So.
Yeah. Because that is one thing that it seems to be very true. Is that if you have a lot of social connectedness to your family or your friends, and you're potentially going to end up homeless, you might be able to use that network to prevent you from going into homelessness. So a lot of the people that we see don't have those social networks, the family or the friends to support them. And that's who you really end up seeing and helping through this program. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, Alan. There's two. There are people who are estranged from their families, or there are people who are going through generational homelessness.
Yeah.
And those are the two that we see the most of.
Do you find that there's a difference in how you have to approach those two circumstances?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that people who are estranged from their family, they have a lot to learn about being safe on the streets, and people who come from generational homelessness are more savvy at navigating systems and getting help, and know how to ask for it.
That's good. You mentioned this earlier about the importance of having youth voice in this project. It's like, how important is that in informing what you and your team do, so that the people who are being served actually have a voice in how that's done?
So it's all the way important. When we were developing this program as a city, that is a requirement that we all have to consult with young people when we make decisions about programming, about policy. All of us are doing it.
Right.
The city's doing it. So we have youth action boards that we run things through, and they come to us when they don't think things are working. Every time we take someone new on, we make sure that they understand that if things aren't working for them or their needs aren't being met, that there's always a way for them to have their voice heard.
That is awesome. That's great. Yeah. You know, we talked a little bit early on about the sort of inequities in LGBTQ populations. But I suspect also that there's a strong inequity that we see amongst people of color, and how the numbers might be higher amongst people of color, because we know that HIV rates can be higher and homelessness rates can be higher. Do you find that that's true in your program as well? Yeah, absolutely. People of color are disproportionately represented in our youth homeless population in the city. For sure. So how does that play out? How do you kind of help make sure that the services and the way that we provide services are addressing inequities? You talked about engaging individuals in their care and having a voice in their care, but how do we make sure as staff that we're addressing those issues and our own internal biases and thinking through all of that? How does that all play out? Yeah, I mean, I feel like as an organization, we've really taken big steps on training ourselves and becoming more culturally competent, and revisiting those trainings constantly, so that we're providing what people need and not what we think that they need. That's great. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I feel like it's really exciting. We just posted our position for our diversity, inclusion, and equities officer as Damien said. So we're going to hire a full-time person whose responsibility will be to keep us all honest and keep us on track. And so that's very exciting. And to check us when we need it. Yeah. So, very important. Yeah, so it's important. Very exciting. So dream big with me. Let's take ahead for 5 years. What do we want to do, like, with youth and young adult services? What would be like your dream? What should we as Damien Center maybe offer? I mean, it would be awesome if we had our own youth and young adult wing that, so we could do what we already are good at, testing and, HIV services, but specifically geared towards young people. But on top of that, mental health services, continue with our housing services, a shelter space for trans youth. Oh, yeah, there you go. So there's still a lot to do, is what you're saying, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I think that as an organization, we're just really starting this process of saying, how do we make sure that we're being very competent and sensitive and thought, and really thinking through how we're providing services to young people.
Yeah.
We're involved in a couple of, one national group and one statewide group that's also looking at that from the standpoint of really the data, like how do we engage young people and how do we know that they're doing as well, right? Like how are the outcomes looking for young people versus adults and other populations. And so I know that that's a project you and I are both involved in, and I'm excited to see how that pans out. And so over the course of the year, we'll really have more and more discussions about how do we better serve the young people, and what do we need to do? As you said, I mean, there's all kinds of different options. So I imagine we'll be looking at some of those really closely and saying, what should we do next to help better serve and think about age populations appropriately?
Yeah. And I think it's great that we can be flexible and change the more that we learn, just so much like the age group that we're serving, you know, our programming can grow and become different things.
That's right. That's right. Well, I just want to thank you so much for coming and joining me today. This has been a really fun conversation. It really has. Any other last things you would want people to know about this program or anything else?
Just if you know a young person experiencing homelessness, please contact us so that we can get them connected with the right people so that they can get the help that they need.
That's right.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Have a great day and a great weekend, and we'll see you next month.
Bye.
Bye.